and I'm a senior civil engineer in the capital improvement program for the city, and I'm a project manager for the Railroad Street project, and I have oversight over two of the projects that are being presented to you tonight. So I'll be speaking to you along with some other members of our teams. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to have you come together so that we can inform you what to expect over the next couple of years. We have several projects that are going to be happening in the next 3+ years, and we thought instead of presenting them all individually, they're so close together and almost kind of interconnected, being in this Old Town area, that we thought we'd bring you all together for one meeting and you can see what's happening and know what to expect. So we want to talk about the timing of those projects, answer any questions you may have about how they might affect you, and let you know that Railroad Street improvements are going to be starting soon. That's the first one starting. We want to provide a place for you to come, find out about the project and ask your questions and provide any input that you have. And at the end of the presentation, as I alluded to, we will reconvene at the boards and give you another opportunity. I know sometimes it's easier to go up close to the boards and point out where you live or where your business is and ask specific questions that way. So we'll have a little bit of both at this meeting. So as I mentioned, we'll have several people presenting. The Railroad Street project will be presented to you first. I'm the project manager for the city. I have members from Dock and Engineering, who's our design and environmental team, so they will be here to answer questions. Old Town Plaza, Phase 2 and Phase 3, Stephanie Carlson. Stephanie, can you wave your hand? Stephanie is the project manager for Old Town Plaza, and she has Brian Fletcher with Calendar and Associates here to make the presentation on Old Town Plaza tonight. Old Town Streetscape Phase 2, the project manager is Brian Stone, and Dock and Engineering is also the designer for that team. We have a cohesive design team between these three projects. Dock and Engineering is designing 2 of the projects. Calendar and Associates is working on all 3 of the projects. And Dock and really has worked on all 3 of the projects because they had a hand in some of the studies performed for Old Town Plaza as well. So this is the project area. As you can see, the orange is Railroad Street. That's the approximate boundary of the Railroad Street improvements. We'll show you more about that. The blue is Old Town Plaza. That's where we have the food truck mania events right now, the farmers market, various events like that. And then in purple, Elk Grove Boulevard, that's the section of Elk Grove Boulevard where the Phase 2 street, Old Town Streetscape improvements will be happening. All 3 of these projects are priority projects for our city council. And with the 3 projects, what we want to do is really create an area that people want to go to, where people want to spend time. We want to provide improvements that will allow people to get there easily, more easily, whether they're biking, whether they're walking, whether they're driving a car and need somewhere to park, they're taking public transit, ride shares, whatever it might be. We're trying to incorporate all of those features into our projects. We want to just create opportunities for people to spend time and enjoy the businesses that are in the Old Town area, help improve the economic vitality of the Old Town area. So this is Railroad Street. These are some photos of the existing conditions out there. You can see the street, although it's paved, it's not fully improved. It doesn't have sidewalks, curbs, gutters, none of that. There's limited sewer. It doesn't extend down Railroad Street. There's sewer in Grove Street. There's no gas in Railroad Street. The area is very flat. When it rains, water ponds. There's surface flooding that happens in the area. There are existing overhead utility poles you can see in the pictures. And the 2 parking lots that the city uses for large events are currently basically dirt parking lots. They're not improved, they're not paved, they don't have accessible parking spaces in them. So the purpose of the Railroad Street Improvements Project is to provide the improvements necessary to improve the circulation. So we're putting in sidewalk, we're putting in sidewalk curb and gutter, we're putting in more parking. We're going to improve the 2 streets, Railroad Street and Grove Street. That will help support the Old Town Plaza and just overall in the Old Town area. Having those parking lots and the street improvements, additional parking, will help create a better environment for people to come and enjoy the Old Town area and frequent the businesses that are there and spend time. So providing public parking, as I mentioned, and providing the missing infrastructure I just mentioned. And all of this will help us meet the goals of the City Council's recently adopted 2-year plan. So this board is in the back. It's in the center of the room in the back. And you'll be able to see it a little more clear when we reconvene to there. But this shows the Railroad Street improvements. The black is the area of the streets that we're improving from Railroad Street, from Elk Grove Boulevard down to, if you've ever traveled down Railroad Street, there's a small culvert bridge that goes over a drainage channel, and that's where the improvements end. We're not crossing that bridge right now. And then also Grove Street to the edge of Old Town Plaza. The 2 parking lots are shown in black, the paved surfaces. The green area around the parking lots are landscaped areas. There's a railroad spur that's existing out there that's abandoned. We're going to relocate that and incorporate that into our landscaping along one of the parking lots to kind of continue that feel of the railroad through our project. We will be planting trees, we will be providing landscaping. It's difficult to see on the screen, but when you go back to the board, we have pink along Old Town Plaza and further south on Railroad Street, which depicts a loading and unloading zone. Could be used for, pick up, drop off, ride sharing like Uber, Lyft. We're providing on-street parking, both angled on-street parking and parallel parking. You'll be able to better see that on the board. We have some stormwater treatment areas incorporated into our parking lots to treat the water before it goes into the storm drain system that we'll be constructing. And then we'll be providing the necessary utilities. We'll be extending water, we'll be extending sewer, gas throughout there. We'll be undergrounding the existing overhead utilities. So all that will be happening with the street improvements. So here's just a conceptual plan showing some of the landscaping that may go in with Railroad Street. We're still working on this design, but this shows the 2 parking lots, which will be the main focus of our landscaping features through this project. As I mentioned, the railroad spurs that will be relocated, they are on the top part of the larger parking lot. You can see that linear strip, they'll be in there. We're still working out the details of what it will look like, but they will definitely be incorporated. We're providing some unique storm drain inlets that allow us the ability to do landscaping in them. And so it provides landscaping as well as a filtration system for our stormwater. It's kind of a neat addition to the project as well. I think that pretty much covers the Railroad Street improvements. It's a fairly straightforward project. Putting the street and the utilities in and paving the parking areas, but it's going to provide some really much needed improvements to the area. Let me just go back, actually. One thing I didn't mention is right now, if you live in the neighborhood by Jan Marie Way, there's no sidewalks to walk on to get out to Elk Grove Boulevard. So you're walking on the edge of the pavement or in the street or walking across parts of Old Town Plaza or across it when it's open. And so that's really going to provide a nice feature for for the people that live in the neighborhood there to be able to travel and walk on foot out to the businesses. So the next steps, well, we'll take the feedback and the input that we get tonight from all of you. We'll come back as a design team and we'll review that, we'll discuss it. If there are things that were mentioned that we don't currently have in the project, we'll talk about how possibly we can incorporate it. Right now, our environmental document for this project is being circulated. It'll be on circulation to the public through May 24th. If you have comments on the environmental document, we ask that you submit them in writing. We can take your comments here tonight as well if you want. We do like to have them in writing when it comes to addressing the environmental document. I have business cards on the sign-in table you're welcome to take. And then that document will go to City Council as well. And you'll have an opportunity at that City Council meeting if you wish to speak about the project. We have some minor, it's up here as right-of-way acquisitions. We have one right-of-way acquisition that we're working on with A1 Towing, and then we have some dedications from city and developer-owned properties that are being made to perfect the right-of-way. There isn't actually a right-of-way out there right now, but there will be. And we're working on finalizing our design. That's expected to be complete in July. We'll prepare the bid documents, go out to bid, and we should be in construction this fall. So with that, I would like to turn the presentation over to Brian Fletcher with Calendar and Associates, who will speak about the Old Town Plaza Phase 2 and 3 improvements.
Oh, yeah.
Center button?
I'm not sure if it's going to
I
work.
was afraid to push the buttons and do it wrong.
Good evening. My name is Brian Fletcher. Can everyone hear me? Not quite used to microphones and such. I promise not to do my singing or Frank Sinatra impersonation or anything. I'm going to talk to you about Railroad Plaza, Phase 2 and Phase 3. I'll get to why there's not a Phase 1. It's actually been constructed already. Just to give you a bit of an orientation on where the plaza itself is going to be. Elk Grove Boulevard, Railroad Street, and Grove Street. The railroad tracks are down at the bottom of this. So we did change kind of the orientation of north-south based on some of those other drawings. So I wanted to make sure that you understood where that is. So just to give you a little bit of history on this, because there has been some work done to date on this project. So back in 2012, the city purchased this property from the railroad for the purposes of creating a plaza in Old Town. At that time, the city conducted outreach to kind of analyze the best use and what the community wanted. That input helped develop a preliminary concept plan that was approved by council in 2015. The environmental document was completed in 2017 for the project. Phase 1 improvements. Anybody seen the restroom out there? That's Phase 1. Progress has been made. So that is Phase 1. That was completed in 2017, and you'll see the plans kind of work off of that aesthetic, you know, the heavy timber look and the location of that. And then finally, so what are we doing here tonight? Well, the plan back in 2015 was a concept plan, very loose, had some information, but maybe lacked a little bit of detail and character and such. What we've developed is a more refined plan that respects that concept plan, provides the same amenities and such there, but provides some more detail for you guys to respond to tonight. So essentially, we are looking for your input on the refined plan and looking forward to having those conversations. I'm going to go through some detailed plans, probably fairly quick. There's a lot of information and detail on the graphics, so I invite you to come into the back corner, grab me, and I can walk you through the plan, and therefore I can start to point at different things to help you better understand here. So the purpose of the plaza is multifold. Create a community gathering space, provide public seating, and provide such a space, a flexible space to accommodate multiple size events, to make the space and areas of the space comfortable for an individual to come on a daily basis, but also the space could accommodate larger events that you've seen out there over the past few years where food trucks come in and such. and to also accommodate a farmer's market. To incorporate the old town aesthetic, so taking cues from what's going on with the streetscape, and how can we make sure that this plaza looks the same, it speaks the same language. And then, like I already said, support a variety of events, and you can see some of those up there. You know, food trucks, movie nights, heaven forbid a yoga class or an outdoor exercise class could be really, really neat out there. You know, and then provide spaces for live music and such. So there's some of the events that we'd be kind of contemplating and trying to provide a space for. So this is the concept plan that I'll walk you through. Phase 1 was that restroom that I talked about. So phase 2 is the front portion. So this is the plaza that is bordered by Elk Grove and Railroad Street. We've oriented that plaza towards that intersection to better relate to the crossings and pedestrian crosswalks, and to provide kind of a gateway to old downtown. The plaza itself has kind of a unique kind of paving pattern that harkens to barn quilts that are located throughout the country, to give it a kind of an old town community feel, and to speak to what we think kind of old town is all about. Creating a front door, a front porch for this plaza. It's hard to see on this, but there are 2 trellises that provide shade. So please come up and talk to me and I can show you where those are located. We think maybe a kind of a fun event would be to have a porch swing underneath those trellises. So this would be a space on a daily, you know, on a day that there's not a whole lot of people, you can come out there and have some lunch and swing on the porch swing, and to make it kind of a unique space, even for the smallest of groups. So that's, in general, what phase 2 is. Phase 3 is kind of the larger area. The biggest feature is the open air pavilion, similar to what you'd see up in Davis, where they have their farmers market. This would provide shade and rain protection and cover, but there wouldn't be any walls. It's just going to be posts and completely open. But it would reflect the same character of the restroom, heavy timber and such, to make a cohesive appearance. Again, details, but we provided areas for food trucks to actually be able to drive into the site and stage so that you can have food trucks on there. The pavilion itself would provide areas for picnic tables for people to be eating the food from the food trucks. The pavilion itself would provide opportunities for downtown farmers markets, and then the spaces all around would be breakout spaces for people to be eating their food and staging going into the farmers market. We've identified in the front there a performance area, probably better stated as that. It's a level space, but it would provide a space where a small band could set up. And this open lawn area that you can see in front of that would provide for informal seating, to lay out a blanket or some additional seats there to enjoy a concert. So those are the main features of phase 3. Please come up and talk to me about some of the details, and I can walk you through the plan then. What are the next steps? So tonight we're looking for input. We've got a bunch of Post-it notes there. Write on them, because we want to hear what you like about the plan and also how you think the plan could be improved. We want to hear both, so we can consider that for incorporation. We have some work to do. These plans are conceptual right now, but the next step is to go into construction drawings. We get a little bit more detailed, and we need to understand where points of connection are for utilities and such. So we've got some work to do there. And then the first stage is going to complete the phase 1 or phase 2 drawings themselves, and we're aiming for basically next year to start construction. Okay, so that's kind of the phase approach and the next steps for that project. So I think that's it for me. I'm going to pass it on to the team for the streetscape project.
Thanks, Brian. And now Jacqueline Lockhart with Document Engineering is going to speak to you about the Old Town Streetscape Phase 2 project. Jacqueline is the project engineer, project manager for both Railroad Street and the Old Town Streetscape Phase 2 projects.
Hi. So continuation of phase one. Phase one has been completed, and the approximate limits are from Walnut to School Street, just past School Street, and then phase two will just pick up from there and go all the way down to Waterman. So, kind of a more detailed depiction of the limits within the phase one. There's obviously the landscaping, hardscape aesthetics, there's the median, there's landscape areas with planted trees, and then you get into the phase two area, and there's limited sidewalks, they're broken, they're not accessible, there's no landscaping, there's no curb and gutter in a variety of places. So because there's no curb and gutter and storm drain systems, you have some ponding and some poor drainage. So with that, the project's gonna fix all of that. So a little bit of history, phase one was completed in 2006. The city used money that they had received in a grant from the Sacramento Area Council of Government, SACOG. And then, so for phase two, the city received additional funding from SACOG in both the years 2014 and 16, and that money has been used to do the preliminary engineering, environmental, and is actually funding the current final design that's going on right now. An initial public workshop for phase two was held in 2015, and we received some input on things that people didn't like about the phase one project, things that people did like, so kind of how can we take lessons learned and what people liked from phase one and incorporate it into phase two. The environmental document for phase two was completed in 2017. And just recently, just at the end of last year, we received additional money from SACOG to fund the construction of the phase two projects. The city then also for the phase two will be utilizing some other monies in addition to the funded money from the gas tax, the city's drainage fee program, and additionally some general funds.
Wait a minute, so these are two different projects with two different timelines?
No, so the phase one's already constructed. So we're talking about just phase two right now.
But I thought it was said that the environmental impact report has not been approved.
It was completed in 2017 for the phase two
The
project.
environmental document for Railroad Street is being circulated right now. So we have three projects we're presenting tonight. We have Railroad Street improvements, we have the Old Town Plaza phase 2 and 3 improvements, and we have the Old Town Streetscape phase 2 improvements.
This is really, I hope you understand that I tried to follow this. I live down the street, and I got a notice. You know, it didn't really describe what the project was. Now you've got three projects with three different timelines and three different environmental, or three different fragments of this environmental process, right? Are you shaking your head yes?
But, yeah, well, we have, so there are three separate projects, yes, with three separate schedules, and, Old Town Plaza and Railroad Street have an environmental document that, had to have some supplemental work done to it in order for Railroad Street improvements to be completed. So there is that environmental piece that's being circulated right now. The rest is environmentally cleared already.
What's clear and what isn't?
The Railroad Street improvements and the parking lots are the only thing that are not environmentally clear. Everything else, the plaza work and streetscape project are all environmentally clear.
Why is this not coordinated?
So,
Here's a question here, because there's other people who live on the same street. We're just all trying to listen, so it's good questions, but let them finish and then go with the questions.
I don't want you to explain to me. I want to know why the city didn't coordinate this better so that we got this in a coherent message. I think.
So we'll continue. I apologize. Our attempt is actually to make it more clear by bringing them all here together so we can talk to you about each of the parts, each of the projects that's happening.
So the purpose of the phase two project is to complete the streetscape that was originally begun by the phase one project, and to kind of carry that vision that the special planning area for Old Town had all the way through. Provide a safe route for all modes of transportation, not just for cars, but there are no sidewalks and stuff through phase 2 area, so to make it safe for pedestrians, bicycles, and there are a couple existing bus stops within the phase 2 area too. Also to provide a visually appealing project, a road that looks nice. This will help attract new businesses, revitalize the area, and part of that is all of those overhead utilities that are out there. We will be undergrounding those. That will help with the visual aspect.
Why does Old Town? You're taking key aspects of Old Town away.
So for the improvements going in with the phase 2 project, like I said, it picks up right from where at School Street, right where the phase 1 project ended. And we will be carrying some of the features from the phase 1 project forward and some of them not. We have heard that some feedback that people didn't really like the medium planters through the middle of phase 1. So in lieu of any raised median or planters within the middle of the road, a 2-way left turn lane will be constructed. This will help provide better access to the businesses and stuff along the way, make it safer. We will be putting in a buffered bike lane, which means there is it's a 1.5 foot gap. It'll be striped and it'll be separating the actual travel bike lane from the vehicular travel lane. There will be landscape strips. There will not be any other raised planters within the landscape strips, as was in the phase 1 project. And then there'll be a sidewalk. All of these improvements, majority of them fit within the city's existing right-of-way. The city does not have to purchase any additional land to construct the majority of the improvements. There are small parcels where the right-of-way, where there hasn't been any development on those parcels, where limited acquisition will need to take place. Other than that, we will be getting, with the coming down of all the overhead utility lines, we will be needing to get some utility easements, and those will be outside of the existing street improvements, and we'll be working with property owners to get those easements that are needed. There are 2 existing bus stops. Those will remain. We will enhance them a little bit with enhanced shelters. And then additionally, at the intersection of Kent Street, we will be putting in one of the flashing beacons, the pedestrian activated beacons. Pedestrian presses the buttons, the lights flash, helps provide a little bit of a safer crossing. Further down the street, there are some areas where there was some newly constructed sidewalk within the last couple of years. That sidewalk will remain. And then we will be putting an additional beacon at the Porter Roses intersection. At all of the intersections that we put, the curb ramps will be constructed to be ADA accessible so that all users can use them. And then as we get down towards Waterman, the existing sidewalk that's out there, that will remain. We will just be resurfacing the roadway. So we've prepared a couple renderings. So as you can see, obviously within the phase 2 area, there's no curb and gutter, cracked sidewalk in places where there is, and then we will enhance it. You can see the little striped area, that's the buffer for the bike lane, which will separate the bike lane from the vehicular lane, and then it'll have the 2-way left turn lane. So the next steps for that, again, as it was with the other projects, we're just looking for input, things you like, things you don't like, how we can incorporate that into the project and make it better. We have a lot of coordination with the utility companies because of all those overhead utility lines. There are 5 companies out here that we're working with, right, correct? I think so. So we need to work with them and how that is all going to coordinate. We will be doing a lot of individual property owner outreach for all of the properties that front Elk Grove Boulevard. A lot of it will have to do with the conversion of those utilities. We'll obtain those necessary utility easements for the undergrounding work. We're working through to complete the final design, and then we're looking to begin the undergrounding of the utilities next summer. The poles have to go away first before we can do any of the roadway construction, so we'll do the first phase to get all the utility lines down, and then we'll come through the following summer with the actual roadway project.
Thank you, Jacqueline. So those are the 3 projects we asked you to come here so we could talk to you about. But while these projects have been going on, we've also performed a traffic study in the Old Town area, and Kevin Busey is our capital program manager. He's here tonight to speak to you about that study and the results from it.
Thanks very much. So we've heard a lot of concerns about specifically the intersection at Kent Street, people wanting to make a left turn, being very difficult to do that. The second issue we've heard is about cut-through traffic on Rancho Drive. So essentially Rancho to School Street, people on Waterman are trying to avoid Waterman and Oak Boulevard intersection by cutting through that. So we got a study started fairly recently and just completed it. So I'm providing a short presentation on that study, and then I'll go to City Council later. So the study covers these intersections. It looked at Oak Boulevard, Railroad Street, Oak Boulevard, School Street, and Oak Boulevard, Kent Street, as well as that cut-through traffic. So what the study found was that Kent Street and Oak Boulevard do not operate well. It is difficult to make that left turn, but it isn't so bad that you need an actual signal there. It's very close to needing a signal, but it's not quite warranted right now. So if we did add, if any development occurs south of Oak Boulevard, a signal will be warranted at Kent Street. A signal on Railroad Street could be installed as well. However, it'd be very difficult to do that because it's proximity to the railroad itself. If we did look at adding a signal on Kent Street, it would probably provide the most benefit of any location to improve access. And you might wonder, well, how does that affect the cut-through traffic ratio? So currently, based on our traffic study, there's only 4 to 8 vehicles that cut through there in the peak hours. They're fairly limited. We don't think that a signal at Kent Street will really increase that cut through more. There's currently some traffic coming already on that road, which limits it already. And then in addition, some of the improvements that we're making with the streetscape project itself will improve some of the circulation with the 2-way left turn lane that they're adding as part of that project. So that's generally findings of the study, fairly simplistic. So we're going to present the study to City Council in June, kind of what we found, and then look for some direction from City Council on what we do as far as do we look at creating a new project or do we wait for more development to occur. But essentially we'll be presenting that to City Council in June.
Thank you, Kevin. So this slide shows the funding sources for all 3 projects. As of right now, Railroad Street improvements, Old Town Streetscape improvements are fully funded. Both have grant funding that we've received. And Old Town Plaza Phase 2 is fully funded. Phase 3 is not funded. We will be doing, at this point, schematic, conceptual design of Phase 3 along with the Phase 2 full design so that we can make sure that the full overall design is fully incorporated and works together. And we'll be looking at the cost, estimating the cost as we do that, and determining if we can find funding sources to do some of the site improvements that would be part of Phase 3. We would not be building the shade structure, but we would like to do as much of the improvements as we can obtain funding for with Phase 2. So timing, Railroad Street improvements will be the first thing you'll see, and that's expected to start this fall. And then construction of undergrounding along Elk Grove Boulevard, and also the construction for Phase 2 of Old Town Plaza will both be going on next summer. And then construction of the street improvements for the streetscape project will continue the following year, which would be the summer of 2021. So there will be ways to get future information and updates about these projects. We will be meeting with Elk Grove Boulevard residents, property owners to talk about utility easements. There'll be construction notices that will go out for all of the projects as we get closer to construction. if you live in the vicinity of the project. We'll be doing social media updates as we did for this public meeting to try to get the word out more effectively to a broader group. We have been and will continue to provide updates on these projects in the citywide newsletter that gets mailed out to Elk Grove residents. And if you follow our city council meetings, there's a city manager's report during every meeting, and we've now added an Old Town area section to that report, so there will be reports from time to time in that as well. So we do have a number of other staff members here in addition to those that have presented and the project managers tonight, so I wanted to recognize and see if I can get everybody. Bob Murdoch, our Director of Public Works, is in the back. And Kevin Busey, who you just saw, is our Capital Program Manager. Ryan Chapman is our Traffic Engineer, he's in the back. I don't think you got to wave at Brian Stone previously, he's the Project Manager for the Streetscape Project, so he'll be back at those boards later. John Griffin is my counterpart at the city, and he has oversight over the Streetscape Project. Ann Grava in the back is our real property agent. She works on most of the city's capital improvement projects, including these projects. Rachel Brown is our economic development manager. And who have I forgotten? And Amy Backer is our environmental representative from Docken Engineering, working on the Railroad Street project. Rick Liptak is with Docken Engineering. And who have I forgotten? Michael Carrolley, somewhere in the audience. Michael Carrolley is working on these projects as well for the city. Raise your hand if I forgot you. Did I get everyone? And we have one of our planning commissioners here tonight, Frank Leda. I think he's in the back over there in the blue shirt. Took his hat off, I couldn't find him. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for being here. All of these staff members will be available to answer questions when we do go to the back boards as well. So we'll have some questions and answers here, then I'll ask you to join us back there. When we go back there, go around to as many poster boards as you want to. It doesn't matter what order you go in, they're grouped by project to make it clear and show the definition between the projects. We have easel pads where you can just write down new ideas. We have post-it notes that you can stick on some of the boards. And we'll have project team members at all of the stations to help. In addition, at the sign-in table over here, we have comment cards. If you don't want to ask your question publicly or at the boards, feel free to write it down on a comment card, put it in the box there, or take it with you. Take one with you if you think of a question later and you want to ask it. It's addressed and you can mail it to us. All of us the project managers have business cards, as I mentioned, on the sign-in table, so you can grab our business cards and email us or phone us as well. And with that, I will open it to questions and answers. I'm going to grab the other microphone and ask that this be passed around the audience. I think Commissioner Maida has a question. I'll walk over this way. This microphone.
Looks like here. I was just wondering if this presentation and exhibits will be online for people. I think that'd be a good thing if possible, so that the people who aren't able to attend tonight can see what you're presenting.
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking that, because I failed to mention we are working on revamping our website right now, and we're going to create an Old Town area section that will have all three of these projects in it, and the poster boards, the information that we've presented tonight will all be available on the website. If you want to go back and look at it, you get back home and you say, something I can't remember, I want to look at something a little bit further, we'll have that posted for you. So that is a work in progress, but it will get out there. Any other questions?
It's unclear to me whether is Railroad Street gonna remain 2 lanes or is it going to 4 lanes?
No, Railroad Street will be 2 lanes, 1 lane each direction.
Okay, but I know there has been further proposal for there to be housing toward the end of Railroad Street at some point.
Yeah, we can't hear you, so I'm interested in the question.
Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. So my concern, or my question is, I know that there has been some housing that has been proposed for the end of Railroad Street. And if that happens, how are 2 lanes going to accommodate that housing going out onto Elk Grove Boulevard?
So, we don't have any applications, first of all, that I can speak to about housing. No applications have been made. There is privately owned property in the Railroad Street area that could potentially be developed, but we don't have any applications right now. So if an application came in for a housing development, they would have to go through their own studies to show whether or not the existing improvements could handle the density of their project, whether or not they meet the zoning requirements and everything else. So that would happen with that development.
Okay, and then my other question was for the gentleman, and excuse me, I don't know his name, or didn't recall his name, that talked about the cut-through on Rancho. Did anyone look at the cut-through on Porta Rosa that takes place off of Elk Grove Boulevard right there by Kent?
Kevin, do you want to address that?
Yeah.
Porta Rosa?
Yeah, we didn't specifically look at any cut through on Porta Rosa. We haven't seen any complaints. Most of the complaints that we received on the cut through traffic came out of the, when we circulated the environmental document for Old Town Streetscape. We got a variety of comments. Most of those comments were related to Rancho Drive. So that's kind of why we did the study, because we got comments, so we decided to look into it.
Right, well, I live in that neighborhood, and I can tell you that people will hit Porta Rosa and go down to Rancho and then cut through.
And what time is that, in the afternoon or in the morning?
That's all day. I mean, people that are, and it's right there across from Kent.
Okay.
So it seems to me that it's something that should very possibly be looked at before there's determination about whether or not a signal is needed at Kent.
Okay, we can look at it.
Are you a city employee?
Yeah.
Oh, are you the traffic guy?
No,
What do you do?
I'm the capital program manager for the city.
Define that a little more clearly to us, please.
The capital program manager, which is my role, manages the overall capital program for the city, includes all the capital projects the city does, as well as development of a capital improvement plan, which is the 5-year document. We presented that last council meeting.
This is the guy who needs to answer your question. He's a traffic guy.
Most people have to leave things, money.
This is for capital projects. It's all public works projects that it does, basically. So with that, so as far as like, that's where roads have cut through, we can definitely look at that. I don't think that's an issue, and also we can take a look at that and see what's going on. That may be something that we need to refer to our traffic engineer, as Mr. Maskey's mentioning right now. And we would look at that from a cut through and or speed control program standpoint.
And I have, what I'm also wondering about is that there are several of us in this room that have lived in the Old Town area for quite a number of years, and some of us also that have done business down there for many, many years. Last time the improvements were done, and I'm not saying I don't like the improvements, because for those of us that have been in the area are happy to see finally Old Town given the attention it should have been given for many, many years. But my concern is that last time we had businesses go out of business because of the way the construction was handled. I'd like to be assured that this time there is going to be more attention paid to making sure that people are aware of what's going to take place, and that consideration be given to how the construction is going to take place. I'm probably not making myself really clear, but I think more consideration has to be taken to the people that are already doing business down there and have been doing business down there for years, and not just have construction come in and pay no attention to that at all. So I'd like to really have some assurances. Right now, we have very limited communication from the city. I do business right on the other side of the tracks. I have no idea what's happening on the plaza until it happens. There has to be more continuity and more information coming from the city to us that are down there doing business. And I don't mean that critically, I just mean that as a positive. If we're all going to support each other and we're all going to improve this area, there has to be much better communication. So I'd really like to see that take place.
Well, I can speak to some of that. I think one of the concerns we had with the Old Town Streetscape Phase 1 project was the trying to do the undergrounding and utility work and the public works work at the construction work at the same time. And so what we're trying to do is do the undergrounding work first, so that we're not having to relocate a utility in the middle of construction of the sidewalk. So it actually will allow improve traffic, keep traffic flowing, or keep those businesses going. So our approach has been a phased project where we do the utility undergrounding first, get those out of the way, and then we can do a much faster construction project and limit those impacts. As far as the outreach, I know you have a slide on all the different ways we can do outreach. Can we go to that?
I'd be happy with an email.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking right now, but I want to see what she's got. So,
I don't have that on there, but we are collecting email addresses on the comment card as well for the signage for tonight.
what I'm thinking we can do, Kristen, is on other projects we've been able to do like a quarterly or every 2 months an email on status updates to everyone that's got who's signed in, but you got to sign in. You give me your email address, and we can send you an email every 2 months, kind of here's the status of things and where we're at with that.
I appreciate what you're saying.
Okay.
But what I also would say, it is not difficult for the city to be able to acquire the contact names of the businesses and the emails for every business and shoot out a group email. When something's gonna happen on the plaza or there's gonna be some big construction, that's not difficult.
I know, we can try to do that. We can very easily get the property owner's information.
I'll tell you what, I'll work with you, I'll get every business owner's name and email address for you.
That would be great.
If you'll send out the emails.
Yeah, I think so. We can do that.
We'll look for other ways to collect more email addresses as we move through these projects as well. Did you want to address anything on that slide?
No.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Oh, everybody, you sure? Everybody hear you?
I've lived in Elk Grove almost since the 60s. And I used to sit on the advisory council when I was over in the county. And we had talked many times about a growth street. And I'm not saying you can afford it, but I talked to the gentleman in the back, putting Grove Street over that little tree. It would free up the traffic on Elk Grove Boulevard tremendously. Now they're taking Amp Rancho Drive, they're coming down through my pothole, and the traffic's starting to bog up. So I think you guys are doing a good job. Just think about Grove Street. I know it's probably too expensive.
So the question was, could we extend Grove Street across the railroad tracks? Would love to, but you're dealing with Union Pacific Railroad, who won't allow it. They just do not like at-grade crossings. They consider them dangerous. And so, they prefer, if we're gonna have any kind of crossing, it's an overcrossing. Like we have on the west side of town, where Elk Grove and Judah Boulevard go over the tracks on the west side of Preston. And you couldn't do it in that area. If you talk about impacts to businesses, you just couldn't do it. We are trying to look at extending Railroad Street further south to tie in through the industrial area. Whether we can do that or not, I don't know, but we are gonna look at that in the future.
Well, Elk Grove Boulevard is never, I'm not condemning it, but it's very poorly designed. It's not wasted a lot of money, because it just.
The existing phase 1 project?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, since none of us were part of that, I agree with you.
And planners in there, little lanes, forget it.
That's why you don't see them on phase 2.
And I'm wondering if you have enough room on the boulevard to do 3 lanes and the sidewalks and keep all these bike lanes.
We take out all the planners on phase 1? Yeah, okay, but we're really just trying to, first we'd like to build these 3 projects so that we can, I think it's right. Old Town is, I haven't done a whole lot in Old Town. And so the idea is you're looking at tens of millions of dollars of investment here. So I think when we're done, it'll look really nice, and we can always go back and take a look at that in the future.
Well, I like what you're saying.
Just wanted to ask you, the parking that is on, in phase one, like, for example, today I'm on my way home, a truck is backing up to park in the little parking spot. I mean, it blocked traffic. Is there any way you could take parking, I know everybody's gonna get mad at me, but off the boulevard, I mean, so they can't park there? Because it's a hazard. And when people are drinking at the brick house, until you put the flashing lights up, a couple of times I even almost hit someone because it was so dark. So I like your Kent Street crossing, flashing.
So one of the benefits of Railroad Street is we're adding how many parking spaces?
180 or 90.
About 190 parking spaces with Railroad Street. So it's a significant amount of parking spaces. So we can take a look at that once we have a lot more parking and see how it's used and see what the impact is. But you're right, businesses value parking in front of their store. So if I was going to go talk to a business about taking parking away, that's a very dangerous thing to do. So I'd say first, let us build it, see what impact it has, and we might get support for that. So, okay.
Any
It
other
looks like there's 100.
questions?
It only looks like there's 100 spaces.
There's on-street parking as well that's going in with the project?
Right, so
the
the
combination.
question was, if you eliminate the street parking, you know, to make it easier for pedestrians and people and flow of traffic, then you're gonna subtract almost half of all of your parking from this project. And
Well, the question was on Elk Grove Boulevard. Could we remove the on-street parking on existing Elk Grove Boulevard west of the railroad tracks? That's correct. So she didn't ask the question about removing parking as part of this project.
Right, but it doesn't show that 82 spaces of.
We certainly can.
Railroad.
I can certainly go show you. It was a big priority for us to put as many parking spaces down there, because one thing that we've heard from businesses is there's got to be more parking. If there isn't more parking, you're not going to be able to get people to come down here and frequent the businesses. And if we want those vacant parcels down on the east side of Elk Grove Boulevard to develop, perhaps with uses, there's got to be parking. So that was one of the priorities. So that's why as you look at Railroad Street, you kind of see these funky little parking lots and these little indentions. The idea was we want as many, as what we heard was parking. So let's find a way to put as many spaces there as we possibly can and still have a two-lane road.
And I'm here to object to parking, because I believe that if you really want to put a park in there, that's what you should put in, it's a park. And there should be amenities for children. There should be amenities for the railroad amenity that they want to put in, that Larry Bowler wants to put in. And not just 150 feet like you got on there. And that just completely dedicates this project to cars. And, you know, if anything, if we learned anything from Sacramento, Davis, and other towns, when they have projects like this, they tend to say, oh, as you get closer and closer to the town center, you get out of your car, you walk, you take a shuttle, you're on a bicycle, something else. And this project does not do that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. We're not scared. You can ask.
Talking about parking, we have one piece of property just before you get to Waterman on the south side, and we're surrounded by empty lots, and the homeless people are beginning to use those lots. It's wonderful. Anyway, my concern tonight is the fact that they're cutting into our property to widen or to make sidewalks and the green area, but it's cutting out of our driveway, and our driveway is getting to where it's going to be so small that we had problems already. When we bought the property, we could park on the street, but then they put the blacktop temporarily down there for our people to walk in, and they said, no, you can't park on the street. So we have nothing but our driveway. And I'm curious, is there ever going to be anything besides like Rite Aid or something that would have parking, you have parking.
And I tell you what we can do though, what we can do is, now let's go back and take a look at your specific property and see what happens, because when you go do improvements and you have some existing houses there with driveways, sometimes you do get impacted, so doesn't mean we can't take a look at the cross-section here and try to find a way maybe to eliminate some landscaping, some way to give you more space so you feel comfortable pulling in and out.
Yeah, we talked about possibly putting a couple places in front of the on a lawn, but that, for some reason, that didn't seem to happen.
Well, we can take a look at it and give us a chance, because again, we're in the middle of design, so we're gonna talk to the property owners, and so we're gonna give a number, whether it's a business or resident. You know, if you have a specific issue, now's the time to let us know, so we can try to find a way to see if we can find a solution specifically for you. Okay?
Environmental impact report and any other reports be available at the public library hard copy. Way back when, there was a ruling, a guideline, that was considered public access before the computers were. That would be very important.
So the request was, could we provide the environmental document at the library so it's easy to review?
It is there. The environmental document for the Railroad Street improvements is at the Elk Grove Public Library near here on Elk Grove, Florida, and it is also at City Hall in hard copy format to look at. Amy Backer. Amy Backer. So the environmental document for Railroad Street is at the public library. Do they just go to the counter and ask for it? Okay.
And you have a problem, make sure you call Kevin. and Kevin will deliver a document.
Can we have a cell phone number?
I would be happy to take my copy and meet with you if that would help. Take my card. Yeah. Any other questions before we go to the board?
The question was, is it online?
Her question was she wanted a hard copy.
I was just checking, it's online as well.
It is on the city's website if you want an electronic copy, yes.
And how do we access that?
If you go to the city's website and there are environmental documents, I'd be happy to walk you through. I can show you on my phone after we're done here and walk you through the exact location, even send you a link to it.
It would be nice to have like.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
Is there a way that if we gave you our
Email address?
email address that you would send?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to.
Now,
Yes.
this document is going to maybe the entire environmental impact.
It's not an environmental impact report, it's an initial study mitigated negative debt. That's what was required for this project. It's a supplemental to the original document that was done in 2016.
What's the original document? Is that
An
also-
initial study mitigated negative debt.
So there was never an environmental impact report done.
One was not required for this project, didn't warrant it.
What are the expected impacts on traffic on in the studies? Or you guys didn't have to do an impact report, so you didn't have to study it, right?
Now, there's a traffic and circulation section that's part of the ISM&D, and then we did the supplemental ISM&D that you mentioned, and we have to specifically address the traffic and the changes in the general plan regarding BMT reduction. So
BMT meaning vehicle miles traveled.
vehicle miles traveled.
Okay, so was there a reduction?
I believe that there was, and I believe the project is exempt because it's an existing road that has already exists, and all we're doing is adding more, reducing BMT likely because there's no sidewalks, and so we're actually adding sidewalks so it'll be easier to walk. So we're not actually, there's no actual, I don't think there's any increase in traffic because there's no change in the actual number of lanes or anything other than that. But
Wasn't there a recent report presented to the city council just in the last month or so by your traffic engineer that said that all of the arterials, north, south, east, west, including Elk Grove Boulevard, are all impacted severely by traffic congestion, and are sometimes at level of service after it's failed.
I think you're talking about the traffic congestion management plan, I believe, that Jeff Warner presented. Basically to compare the existing versus general plan, build out, and potentially what traffic. Yeah, there is a report on that study. It's not really related to the project because that was more of, all ever future development occurred within the city, then that's where you look. But yeah, it's somewhat unrelated because.
What's the current congestion on Elk Grove?
Well, I could probably look it up in that report, but I don't have it available to myself right now.
Does your traffic person?
Try to know?
Not off the top of my head.
No, it's not good.
Are we at level service C or anything?
We don't use level service anymore. We use all, but.
What level do you use to describe?
Ryan, do you want to try to answer it? I give you the mic.
So the recently adopted general plan adopted a series of performance targets based on whether it's a signalized intersection or it's a road segment. And based on those targets, we're looking at, are we approaching that target? Are we exceeding that target, or are we still well below that target? I can't recall off the top of my head where Outgrove Boulevard was in this area.
How can we find that out and broadcast it? But that is because one of the concerns was that on Porta Rosa, there's a lot of people cutting through there, and people are and the only part of the study you did was on Rancho, where you had passengers, and so
So you can fill the comment card and get back to you. We will be doing some data collection on Porta Rosa to kind of measure the volumes on that street. As far as finding out what some of this other information is, I would look at the environmental impact report for the city's general plan. We printed all that out. We also have it in the city's traffic congestion management plan, which can be found on the Public Works Traffic Engineering website.
it would be helpful if the city staff could pass this information on to us in an informed manner. This is unacceptable in the public. It is true, and that goes to I mean, there's no way that we should, that the people are supposed to become expert in this. We're supposed to go to this website, look this stuff up, and then tell you where you were wrong about this. And that's not the way it should be. This is democracy, but it's also a representative republic. We elect our leaders, they appoint you, and you are our civil servants. You do the work for us, not the other way around. So we need an informed piece of information about this. That's the way democracy works.
Well, and I will say that what I'm hearing about this is that I'm really happy with this plaza. That's wonderful. But we have a quality of life issue here in both sides of the boulevard. And the traffic is awful. Businesses, they can't survive when you have all this traffic in the pull over. So it's not only a parking issue. When it is bumper traffic, nobody's going to stop and say, hey, I want to go into that intersection. It's just not going to happen. Then you have all these hair salons are going to take more like 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever. So there's nothing's meshing, nothing's coordinated in Old Town to begin with. And it looks to me like this railroad thing is just going to put traffic on all your little events over in one neighborhood, and then they're going to turn around and come over to one of those in the Rancho, make them a little turn to the back over out of our area. I mean, I really think that it needs to be reconsidered. This whole plaza, everything. We have been here through it all, and there's plenty of other areas that you guys can get out of.
So I think with these projects, we're looking at making it easier for people that want to walk. So the attempt is to reduce vehicular traffic, but also to provide a place for those that are going to drive, because there are some people that aren't going to walk or are coming from too far away to walk, to be able to have adequate parking, and it's not on the boulevard, so where it is to
Your plaza, right? Not for the people that live in the neighborhoods whose kids go to schools, right there. I mean, not really for the
think if you live in Old Town right now and you're living kind of east of the railroad tracks, I think it's very difficult for you to walk to the current Old Town area. If you tried to bike there right now, I mean, maybe for some able-bodied people it's not a challenge, you can jump over certain things, but I think it is very difficult and there's a lack of shoulders. So I mean, you're gonna be able to bike and walk to the Old Town area where you really weren't able to before.
Old Town, when the original project, that's what I was just discussing with somebody,
Yeah.
when the original project came about, it was no bike to skate roads, no nothing in Old Town, and you had that bike track, trail like off on, what is that, Grove or whatever. People still weren't using it, nobody knew about it, and so now, I'm getting ready to drive somewhere, and I have people on bikes that are driving in the middle of the road, but there's nowhere they can go, and there's nowhere I can go, I can't get around them, and I just have to sit it out.
It is constrained. You did in the Old Town Streetscape project, it's already constructed. It is very constrained. You basically have to share the road with the bicyclists to get through there. And that is something that, as part of this phase 2 project, we're trying to fix. We want to have they have their own lane, and they can be in that at least through this new part that we're building.
But you're only saying the widest part right now, that
Excuse me, you're kind of missing out on what's being said. She's gonna speak.
Oh, yeah.
She should be
Oh, give her a,
saying.
I don't see Durr to Waterman as an issue because it's already wide. Our issue with everything would be closer to the railroad tracks from, say, School Street on, it's not, that's where you can't ride a bike, that's where you can't skateboard or whatever. But the other area is wide enough. You have businesses that actually have parking because they're older homes there, so their businesses are homes that turn into businesses, and they have their own parking spots. So, like, this phase off the Durr is not making sense to me. I would think you take that money and figure out a way to help out the people that live in that area where you're really, putting traffic onto the side street, especially over that railroad. That's gonna get, when you have an event, you're gonna have people, 100 parking spots, all those cars are gonna go through that neighborhood there and turn out on 10th Street. Like, what is that? That's not quality of life. I mean, that's just how I feel. You guys may think it's nice, but I'm sad.
No, I appreciate it.
No, living in the area, living in the area with events, you hear the music, so this is what I wanted to ask you also, and I'm not sure it's appropriate tonight, but phase 3, and I love homeless people, please, and I love drug addicts and everything, but I don't want them in my backyard. And, so when you, how should I say this? Anything that's covered now, if you go to Sacramento, I was born and raised in Sacramento, I see all the homeless now that are gathering. I went to a library downtown to do research. I was absolutely afraid to walk up the steps to go in and get in the elevator with a man that scared me to death. I was shaking. This could happen here in Elk Grove if you put covered, I know you don't think it can happen, but it's going to happen. The baby boomers don't have money, so they're gonna look for shelter. I'm a landlord, you can't pay for rent. So that shelter thing I'm concerned about for that reason. They're gonna go there to, and you can't tell them no. They have the freedom. And then also, when you have parties, no, when you have events, and I like the Old Town concept, but when you have events, I have rentals that were on Kent Street, but they knocked out our fence, they get drunk, and they leave the parties, and what she was saying, they go down these streets, there's a massive, and that's, I mean.
Well, that was quite a bit.
No, I mean, who
So,
provides the events?
the city, well, it's a city-sponsored event. We may do it, or we might have an event, a company come in and want to use the plaza and stage an event.
So like, can they make a curfew at 10 o'clock?
There's all of those things that can be done.
Okay.
So,
And we
if
talk
the
to
question would be, is talk to the city and especially let us know about your concerns and what you're seeing and hearing.
Okay.
And then what happens is we can start to tweak those events to try to reduce the impacts on. But now, as far as the homeless goes, if we build a cover, and I've seen it, homeless will congregate, where they can, and so that'd be incumbent upon the city to try to police that. So I mean, it's a very good point when you make it as part of that process, and I think it's something, same with the bathroom. When we put the bathroom in, it was a big concern for us because we said, well, how do we deal with this? Because when do we lock it? When do we unlock it? How do you make sure people are safe when they're using it? And so, and the issue of homeless was discussed about with that bathroom. So, you know, it is something we look at and we try to deal with it, but I guarantee you right now, we're not going to have a complete solution. It would end up being enforcement. And, no, we actually haven't had a problem with the bathroom. Yeah, because mostly that's because this is Elk Grove. If this was Sacramento, we might have a different story. But part of it would be, you know, one of the things that, and we deal with homeless all the time, like on bike trails and stuff, you go into bridges. One of the things that we found is the more people that are around, the less homeless want to be there. And so if you have a pavilion or, you know, an area, the more times people are there, it tends to have the homeless shied away. And so part of this is, you know, try to use that or make it attractive to the public, make it attractive, a gathering place. So where you and your tenants or whoever, customers, want to be there at different events and tend to kind of push the homeless to other areas. But there's no golden.
I think you need to take a look at the light Portofino. That would give us a break off School Street. Because you got Kent Street, School Street, Portofino, and then make the cut through, they could get through there quicker than coming around. Look at that.
So you were asking us to take a look at a traffic signal at Portofino?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted everybody else to hear it. Okay. Okay.
So you're putting 180, 190 parking spots on Railroad Street. And then from Railroad, you can't turn left to go on Elk Grove Boulevard heading east, right? You're gonna, or heading west. You have to go out and go east.
Not right now.
So were there any studies, I mean, my family's original owner on Rancho, and I love the idea of pulling out the streetscapes and bringing Western Festival back, and I don't want to live in the past, but I miss those things growing up. But if you're taking 180 plus cars and you're making them all go right, isn't it in theory that the first turn in School Street, so I get the 4 to 8, completely agree with that. It's not an ongoing issue, I don't think, but anytime that boulevard's closed, I'm right within the Rancho and Laguna, there's at least 25, 30 cars that are trying to find an exit. And I know that it says, you know, dead ends, can't come through. I know Peggy probably mentioned that too, but is there anything that is going to stop cars from using that as a cutout at 10 p.m. as 180 people are exiting onto the boulevard and can only go one way?
So coming out of Railroad Street?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, so turning onto Elk Grove Boulevard, you're going to have to go right.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and that was one of the issues that we were trying to figure out, and Kevin talked about a little bit is, we looked at a traffic signal at Railroad Street and Elk Grove Boulevard to try to provide full access so somebody coming out of an event can go left or right. And then the alternative was, well, should we put it at Kent Street? Because we'd already had complaints from citizens that saying, that live there already, that says, look, I come out to Kent Street, I can't turn left. It's difficult for me to turn left. And so we had those two issues going on at the same time. And we looked at trying to put a traffic signal at Railroad Street. And it's really tight.
But even if you don't have a signal, I mean, there's a planner there, I think, so you can't even, like, there's not a
we
left
could
turn
reconstruct
lane.
it. The reality is, we could build a signal.
Reconstruct.
That's nice. That's the first thing I've heard all night. Reconstruct.
So, I mean, we could physically allow left turns out of Railroad Street on Elk Grove Boulevard. So heading north, turning left to the west. We could do it, but it's so close to the railroad tracks that what you're talking about is people coming east and hitting a red light, and the railroad tracks are right behind you. And you know, and somebody's inevitably going to get caught on the tracks or near the tracks. Yeah, and so there was a concern about just being able to physically do it, being able to do it in a way that people don't feel like they're stranded on the railroad tracks. And so, as Kevin was talking about, we looked at that study, a signal at Railroad at Elk Grove Boulevard, and at Kent at Elk Grove Boulevard, and it seemed like the one at Kent would work better, really from a standpoint of just physically being able to fit it in.
Did you have a question, sir? Or?
I was just wondering why, the reason why that those planter boxes and all that stuff was constructed in the first place at the railroad tracks. You know?
No, I don't. I wasn't here at the time.
I'd like to answer that.
Frank, you want to answer that?
Well, I do.
You sure?
Because there's a lot of confusion about that. And I don't know why. Well, the reason for those meetings, I often tell people that, you know, it's not very good, right? But if we hadn't fought like hell, it would have been a lot worse. So there was a group of people who fought like heck because the city represented us at the time, a whole different group of engineers, that the PUC, California PUC, because of the railway, actually wanted those medians to go at least to Walnut and all the way to school. And so as bad as they are today, we had to fight like hell to make them that bad, or they'd been much worse. So it was a battle. It was a battle. We had to get people from San Francisco. It was one of these interesting things because when you're talking to them on the phone and everything, no, can't be done, all that sort of thing. Finally got somebody out there, and within 5 minutes they said, well, this won't work. So, I mean, that's the reason for that. So I just, you can tell, it bothered me a lot at the time, and so that's why I wanted to make a comment.
Hey, Fred, like you said,
can I answer that question now?
East-west turn there, go to the front. I think that would help.
At Railroad Street? I think it's impossible.
What?
Are you talking about going west?
West or east, because.
In other words, have the option.
An option.
Not a stop. I think you'd have PUC problems with that.
No, you don't need to stop.
That's just too darn close.
I'm not gonna go if
I don't think you have to be an engineer to think that
That's
doesn't
right.
work, Ben. I don't think.
You're not gonna have to go if.
You know what's funny though? A lot of you people, I mean, Michael, that when you live,
I don't like any of it.
when you live there, when you actually physically live there, not work there, live there, come home at 11 o'clock at night or whatever, physically live within that radius in Old Town, you see really what goes on there. You see what goes on, and there's crime I see. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in that little old town. So I just think that.
Looks like they're having a lot of fun.
No, but I'm just saying when you live there and drive it at night and stuff, you see what the problem is.
I couldn't agree more. I'm down there.
Yes, your business. Yeah.
And well, I haven't lived more than a block off that street until recent years.
Yeah.
Really.
You
So I mean, I grew up on it, and I think we have a unique situation, to be honest. And so I'm an advocate of the general improvements that are being proposed here, because essentially what we have is, we have one of the least ideal situations in this town. We were a little town for a long time. We weren't a boom town like Folsom was in the early years or any of that, where there's other side streets. We have a constrained circumstance. The county didn't do us any favors when they did the east side area there, and didn't provide for adequate traffic. The idea that Elk Grove Boulevard is just that, being used as a boulevard rather than Main Street that it was designed to be. I mean, we're stuck with some bad situations. So in my mind, anything we can do to improve those things is what we should be about. And I do think that this staff and what I've seen, I think they're trying to do that. And I do, although I would say that I am an advocate for a light at Kent, because I see the practical need for that. And so I would advocate for that. And I would ask Bob or whoever would have done, Kevin, if the additional parking was considered during the study about traffic meter lights. Did they include the additional parking?
We're just looking at primarily those circulation elements. Basically, can you make a left at Kent Street, really?
Well, I would argue maybe all the more reason that you're going to have an opportunity, you're going to have more use of Kent. And the residents have had a long time without any development. So I'll say I'm an advocate.
Well, thank you, Frank.
About a street light on Water Road.
No, I asked.
I just wanted to say one thing about the traffic, because for those of us that have been down there a long time, the traffic has always been an issue. But I think we've talked about for years, it's a public education issue also. And that we need to educate a lot of the people that use Elk Grove Boulevard just as a thoroughfare to go to Lawn or go to Waterman and not use the boulevard. And as we improve the boulevard, and I agree with improving the boulevard totally to Waterman because we need to keep the SPA intact. That as there's more and more people that are using it, more and more people that are walking, more and more businesses are coming in because it's a more vital area. Less and less people will, I believe, use it as a thoroughfare. Just like you see in Folsom, just like you see in Sonora, just like you see in some of those towns, because it becomes too difficult for them. Although right now it's bumper to bumper, they can still get through pretty fast. But as you have more and more people using the crosswalks, that will become a deterrent.
I have two comments. One is that I don't see why we have phase 3. I think it's probably for the benefit of future developers or something down that way. Do we want to have crowds come to Old Town? Okay, then maybe we do need it, I don't know, but it seems to me that that's going to be 180 more cars getting down Elk Grove Boulevard or somewhere. And I agree that all of that needs to be worked out. I have the constructive comment that I'd like to make is, let's not lose Old Town. I'd like to see there be some historic planters or historic plaques around. I mean, here was the former railroad station. This was the first business building in town. And some of those of you who have been here more than 30 years, I'm a youngster here, some of you. I think that there are many places down there that ought to have a plaque. Probably not more than 5 or 6, but visitors coming through, new people coming in, need to know why we call it Old Town. I mean, it was a small little town with a sweet shop, a restaurant, a bar, a hotel, and that sort of thing. And even those of us who've been here as long as I have forget that sometimes. But in incorporating Old Town, let's keep it Old Town. Let's keep something about Old Town.
Back to the traffic coming out of events from Railroad Street, the fact that you cannot take a left onto Elk Grove Boulevard. Most of the traffic is going to go down Grove Street. They fly down Grove Street. If they're heading east, they fly down Grove Street all the way to Webb so that they can bypass the current lane that's there to School Street. And it's a real traffic hazard right now. Very, very few people, other than people who live there, obey the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. It's really dangerous. And I hate to see that go through with all of that added traffic without some kind of speed controls. We've not even been able to get speed limits on the street.
Are you looking for speed humps on the road? Is that what you're asking for?
Speed control of some kind.
Some kind, okay. Thank you.
As you know, that I've been a very advocate of the light at Kent Street. I know for over 40 years we used the back ways in and out around Old Town. Basically, if you want to be straight up honest, is to keep away from the sheriffs on the boulevard coming from one bar to the other. That's the truth. Nothing's changed. We just added some more people. There is speed mitigation through the speed bumps on some of these roads that people are taking through your neighborhoods. Trust me, I've had some conversations probably a couple times a month with the two gentlemen in the front. one of the questions I've had as we want to grow this area with entertainment is a back way away from the housing and to get the traffic moving away from Elk Grove Boulevard. We're not going to fix what the county screwed us. That's plain and simple. So as costly as it is it a benefit to start looking at a back door to Dino Drive?
Yeah, in fact, I think earlier I had said, one of the things we're looking at, and we don't have an alignment yet, is to take Railroad Street south and find a way to work our way through the industrial area. You're right, the way they develop, there's no easy path. And so I think that, I know, for example, we deal with Elk Grove Water District, who has a treatment plant there. They'd love to have a back way into that. And I think it would be beneficial for a lot of reasons, including taking that traffic a different direction and giving them the opportunity not to go, for instance, down Rose Street, but to go down toward Dino and out to Water. So I mean, we've actually sat down with a map trying to find, okay, what are the options? So we started that process. It's going to take a little bit of time, but I think when I'm hearing about traffic here, I think that makes a little bit of higher priority if we can find a back way. You know, and guide people instead of up to Elk Grove Boulevard, we guide them south on an extension of Railroad Street down through the industrial area, through Dino and maybe Water.
Thank you.
Yes, the property that you're talking about going toward Railroad Street, 6 acres there. And I know at one point the city map that they used way before the city incorporated actually showed Kent Street going through and hitting Kent Street comes out of Waterman. However, the person that drew that didn't realize that one of Gibson's buildings was in the middle of it. And I don't know where how a good way to do that, but that would be probably something we'd like to get out that way too. We have the same problem the Water District does, and that's been our problem with the events. And Jody at the city has been very cooperative in keeping the property owners there informed, and had some argue and discuss over the last few weeks, and it's not Jody's fault, it's stuff that wasn't carried through by people actually doing stuff with their security. But once you put that light at School Street, everybody that wants to go down to whatever Soccer World or everything that's down the old Gibson property, they're all cutting off, coming down Railroad Street, they're going to cross on road, they're going to the fast, you probably need to put a speed bump there. You don't have to drive it every day, because I drive it twice a day.
Thanks.
So when someone has an event, when they have an event, who would we talk to about getting police? That would resolve the whole problem. When you have an event there, like there was something this weekend, there was music going to late, the taco thing. But anyway, whenever they have a function to have police or some type of thing to direct the traffic, that would resolve the whole problem.
At the end of the event, where people can get out?
I don't go to the event, so I was
Okay.
about the police with those things.
Okay. I know we have PD there, but I'm not sure how many are
So
there.
they could guide them
Okay.
out, and that would be like probably a half-hour job, you know how they leave quick.
Okay. Let me talk, as he was mentioning, Jody is the one that helps organize it, and I can talk to her.
Yeah.
There are city PD there, I think, but it's primarily private security. And the mess with the Beards of Sac Festival was this private security had no idea what Beards of Sac had agreed with the city, the water district, ourselves, and so we were left with totally blocked out.
Again, was it your son that got held up?
Yes, my son got fired out with his four-wheel drive out the back.
I heard about that. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, there was not good communication. I'm hoping the latest event works better, because we did have concerns from Mark Bass and the Water District as well.
Yeah. I didn't, the only problem there was you couldn't get on Elko Boulevard, but that was because of the railroad tracks. That wasn't.
No, that shouldn't have happened. Honestly, I apologize.
That was the railroad crossing arms. They shut it down.
Yes, sir.
You know, I have to agree with a lot of people with traffic. Elk Grove Boulevard, way back, has always been a problem. And the original design was we convert Elk Grove Boulevard, we'll get the traffic off the boulevard and put on another motor. But I'm saying to one lady, one concept to me is the future of Elk Grove should be Grant Line down to the soccer deal and improve that area. Get the traffic out of Elk Grove. I mean, Old Town, you really believe Old Town needs all that traffic? People don't shop there that much.
We are improving Grant Line Road.
Excuse me.
So we can't,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
we can't,
I've been there 35 years.
if you're not, you gotta yell at the city, not each other, or else we're not gonna know what to do. We are improving Grant Line. We, we're next down from 4 lanes to 2 right there at Waterman. We're gonna widen that, put a signal at Mosier, put a signal at Bradshaw. And work our way up, we're working, so in that area. So we got this, there's a lot of projects going on. We're gonna widen and extend Hammer, a new interchange at Whitelock 99. So there's a lot of things. If you wanna know all about that, just come see us and we'll bore you for a long time.
Thank you. Did a good job.
Sure. Anybody? Now, we will answer questions in the back. If anybody has any more questions right now, or we can answer in the back. And then if you want to, I'll go with you to the board. And if you want to point out your house, let's see what we can do for you. Okay?
Thank you.